Here's Johnny. You're gonna need a bigger boat. So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Chasing the Gold, all about Sundance. And joining me today are two people fresh from the Sundance experience, or perhaps still a little bit in the Sundance experience. We have friend of the pod, Bjarnar, back to Chasing the Gold, and joining us for the first time, Megan Loucks. Welcome, friends.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
I'm very excited. Megan's having a little bit of technical difficulty, so you will only see her photo, but she's with us, audibly with us. But those of you watching on YouTube will just be treated to a photo and not her whole lovely face. How are you guys feeling post Sundance? Good year, medium year?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. It was my first time covering Sundance, first time ever even knowing that I could do an online version. So I had a great time. I didn't watch as much as I wanted to, but everything on my watch list I did get through. So honestly, I'm just blown away by the catalog of films that they put online. I didn't really miss anything. I don't think that I was like clamoring for. But yeah, I mean, I had a great time.
Yeah, I would say similarly. Obviously, some of the bigger titles like Gregor Raki's "I Want Your Sex," Olivia Wilde's "The Invite," John Wilson's "History of Concrete." Those are certainly films I'm looking forward to seeing once they're officially out in the world. Didn't get the chance to see those online as they were available in Park City, and like Megan, I was viewing from the comfort of my living room. But the online catalog this year was certainly strong, obviously giving a lot of options in the documentary genre, as Sundance is wont to do, but also a lot of very interesting works from international directors. And I felt that the next section was incredibly strong. That tends to be like what I guess Sundance describes. We are broadening the horizon of what the approach can be to drama and everything else. So I thought that section was really strong. And I liked quite a few things I saw. I would say overall, what I've been ascertaining from people who were there and also people online is that there's a lot of like solid stuff here and a smaller amount of things that are like, wow, this will stand the test of the year. In terms of not to jump ahead and think about best, but out of Sundance, I would say that there were a few things more so on the ground that stood out. And then a lot of stuff that I was able to see at home, I was like, this is quite good, or this is okay. But still some standouts above the group overall for sure.
Well, we will get to that in just a second. Before we fully jump into Sundance, I should mention we're recording this Tuesday, February 3rd. The Grammys were on Sunday. This is not a music pod. Bad Bunny reigned supreme, but relevant to the Oscar race. A couple of interesting categories. So, Sinners won for Best Soundtrack. Ryan Coogler was also nominated, so he has a Grammy now. So come March, could be halfway to his EGOT, which is very cool. Ludwig Göransson won for Best Score, so that seems like another rubber stamp on his way to the Oscars. And Golden won in the best song for a visual medium category. Very cool. Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande won Best Pop Vocal Performance for Defying Gravity. So no Oscars for them for Wicked, but they do get to add a Grammy to their collection. And Steven Spielberg, guys, officially an EGOT because he won a Grammy as part of the John Williams documentary that he helped produce. So very, very cool. So some movie love at the Grammys. But to come back to Sundance, Will, you mentioned there are films that do hang on throughout the year. Last year, Sundance 2025 gave us If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. I think all of our current documentary nominees were Sundance films. You had, Sorry Baby, very much in the conversation all year. Got Golden Globes mentions, Twinless. So these Sundance films really do hang on. I believe Train Dreams was at Sundance last year as well. So there are major contenders to emerge, which is what we're here to talk about today. So let's kind of start by each of you telling me a little bit about your favorites. Megan, I'll start with you. You just had a review published on In Session Film, a rave for Josephine. Tell me about that film. That's one of the buzziest titles that I keep hearing about, and I'm glad you seemingly liked it very much.
Oh yeah, I mean, I am totally blown away by Josephine from the director. She wrote the film as a personal experience that she went through as a child in her, real life, and I think that just adds like a little bit more of like a heartbreaking aspect to it, because the film is based around a child who witnesses like an absolutely horrific crime, and how she has to navigate that and deal with it when she doesn't even have the words to express kind of what she saw. It has Gemma Chan, Channing Tatum, and the lead role is a debut performance by Mason Reeves as Josephine. This is probably up there with my favorite film that I've seen at Sundance. I think the cinematography is wonderful, the editing's wonderful, everything about the film is just basically perfect. The one thing I do think that's going to put people off is the depiction of the assault in the film. It's probably one of the more hard to watch depictions of like sexual assault that I've seen in a film before, but it's very effective, and yeah, I would say that one's probably my favorite. And also a film called If I Go, Will They Miss Me? That one, I watched that, I think Sunday. It was like one of the last films I watched, and I had no really idea what I was getting into, but it is so imaginative and ambitious, and it really tells a beautiful story of a father and a son whose relationship is fractured, like extremely fractured. And I think that those two films are going to be ones that people are going to talk about all year long. But yeah, those two are definitely my standouts.
Will, were those films that you caught as well?
Yeah, If I Go, They Will They Miss Me was the best thing I saw over the weekend. It really blew me away. Walter Thompson Hernandez, the director, he had a film at the Tribeca Film Festival last year called Kites, and I was impressed and moved, if not totally in love with that film. I think it showed a lot of promise. And for him to come back so quickly with a film like If I Go, Will They Miss Me, that in my little brief letterbox thing, I just wrote very quickly that it kind of reminds me of coming from like a Ramel Ross kind of school of imagery. If somebody really responded like I did to Nickel Boy, I think that in terms of cinematography and imagery visually, If I Go, Will They Miss Me is going to be a standout for them as well. That was my favorite thing that I saw. Really, really affecting story, like Megan said, of a father and son and a family really that is not totally torn apart, but certainly changed due to the father's incarceration and subsequent release from prison, and just kind of follows this young man's adolescence, and how he kind of comes to terms with who he is, while his father also finds out like how he wants to spend the rest of what he hopes is a free life. And yeah, really, really fascinating. It's funny, we're obviously talking in 2026, which is largely being billed the year of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, and there's a lot of Greek mythology that is present in this film. I don't want to say too much about it just because it came as a nice surprise to me, having not read too much about the movie before going in, but a lot of Greek myth imagery and sort of visual analogies that the son is comparing. He views his father as a god, despite everything, despite their fractured relationship and their distance from each other for a period of time. And so the imagery that popped up there was funny. It'll be curious to see which film stands more the test of time between these two Odyssean adventures. But no, this movie really wrecked me in a good way. And I also, just quickly on Josephine, I quite liked it as well. It's among my favorites from what I saw over the weekend of online screenings. And I think this one is probably going to be I don't want to say the movie that stands out above the crop, but I think just given that Channing Tatum and Gemma Chan are involved, when you get stars like they are in Sundance features, especially from a director early on in her career like Beth DeArajo is, this is only her second feature, and I am with a camp of people that really kind of loathed her first feature, Soft and Quiet. But this is, I think, a more thoughtful and rigorous, in a positive way, version of the type of movies she wants to make that tackle quote unquote uncomfortable subjects, traumatic subjects, and kind of pull them apart at the seams in terms of how they are reckoned with by the people who witness them. Specifically, the sexual assault in this movie is, like Megan said, pretty difficult to watch, but spurs the rest of the film in a very compelling and heartbreaking direction. Mason Reeves is really excellent as the young girl Josephine. I really like this film. I'm not necessarily as high on it as a lot of other people, but really stands out to me as the kind of movie that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about once it is available.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of goodwill for Channing Tatum right now coming off of Roofman. Like, people are waiting maybe for the right role to embrace him so he could, if not hanging on all the way until the Oscars, potentially indie spirits and critics groups hopefully will champion him along. Well, Will, what other films stood out to you as sort of the cream of the crop of your Sundance watch list?
Yeah, it's tough because obviously we're on a podcast called Chasing the Gold, and the gold that not every filmmaker, but films and filmmakers are often chasing is the Oscar, the Academy Awards. And it's difficult to suss out what really can last that long in terms of Sundance features. Like you mentioned at the beginning, Sorry Baby last year was in real contention throughout the year, kind of considered one of the better films of the year by many, myself included. I quite liked it. And but it's difficult come so soon after to kind of be like, these are the movies that will be there.
Well, let me ask you this.
With that said, though, I do have one.
Okay.
With that said, I do have one that I think, given its relevance and just overall quality, I think could genuinely end up being a best documentary contender at next year's Oscars. And that's American Doctor, which is a documentary about 3 American doctors, one who is Palestinian, one who's Jewish, and one who's Zoroastrian. They go to Gaza to essentially, operate and save lives, those of whom are being impacted and targeted and harmed by the ongoing genocide in Gaza. And it is a really, really alarming, gutting, terrifying look at the healthcare crisis in Gaza, specifically how no matter what these doctors do to get into Gaza, sometimes their journey is cut off because of visa issues or the Israeli government putting up blockades that don't allow them into Palestine. Like we see, there's a couple shots of one of the doctors whose name escapes me at this time, but one of the doctors flies into Jordan and is basically sitting on his hotel balcony and can look across a ravine and see Gaza, but can't get there because of logistical issues, or he's being essentially held away from it by governmental obstacles. But what we do see is pretty gruesome imagery of what is occurring throughout this genocide, and the people being harmed by missile strikes and anything else, whether it's on hospitals or on just the community at large. And watching these doctors both discuss what's happening between Israel and Palestine and also perform their medicinal duties, it is really remarkable. I mean, these people are heroes. Healthcare workers everywhere are heroes, but it's to watch 3 heroes and their extended group of medical professionals performing these acts to save lives as best they can, in a place where life is being threatened every step you take is really, really profound experience, the viewing experience. I think this movie should I've seen a lot of people say something similar, so I would not take credit for this phrase, but put it on absolutely every screen in the world. It's, I don't like thinking about it this way, but this strikes me as the kind of movie that Netflix would buy, and that would really, really, that would be great for its reach. But I also think that everybody just needs to see it. You see this movie and you will feel just absolute heartbreak and dread for what is occurring overseas right now in Gaza. And so it has stuck with me since I saw it. I think it will continue to stick with me for the remainder of the year. It's really, really special in a terrifying way. But I think it stood out certainly to me as one of the best films and certainly one of the best documentaries that I think is in the entire program. And I only obviously saw so many being online, but yeah, American Doctor, directed by Po-Si Teng. Put it on your list if it isn't already. Megan, did you get a chance to see this?
No, I did not. That's actually one of the documentaries I really was trying to get an online ticket for, but the day I went to go get an online ticket, there was none left, and I was pretty disappointed because I've been hearing a lot of amazing things about it.
Well, Will, what I was going to ask you was, imagine, we're sitting here next February talking about the next crop of Oscar nominees. What is a film that you don't think might be there, but that you're hoping is still in the conversation, or just a film similar to American Doctor where you're like, I hope I'm still thinking about this, or people are still talking about it?
Sure. Yeah, I think, certainly if I go, Will They Miss Me stands out as one, but that just doesn't scream Oscars to me. Just doesn't, but that doesn't make it any less exceptional. One that I wanted to shout out is Michael Marchak's Closure, which is a documentary about a father named Daniel whose teenage son goes missing. And basically what this father does every single day since his son has gone missing is work to find him, whether that means he's, scouring the depths of the Vistula River, or just doing legwork of speaking with people in the community. Have you seen this person? And it really, the moment you begin to watch him do this, you feel like he's doing something that is relatively hopeless, but that doesn't make it any more, that doesn't make watching the film necessarily hopeless. It's kind of one of those things where this person has been missing for so long. You see this on the news all the time. It's like, this is what their rendering would be like. I remember getting the penny saver, like when I was a kid. The penny saver would just show up in my mailbox and be like, this person has been missing since 2002. This is what they would look like 18 years later. And my immediate thought, unfortunately, is I don't know that this person is still with us. But think about the parents who have even a shred of hope that they can find something, or someone can find something. That's what Closure explores. Marchak's previous film before this was a film called All of These Sleepless Nights from 2017, which is just I can't recommend it enough. It is I'm trying to make sure I have all the information correct. It is a documentary about these art school classmates who it's docu-fictional, I guess I should say, but it's about these art school classmates who party around Warsaw, and their relationship struggles because of romance between one of the men and a girl in their friend group, and it's really hypnotic and excellent. And this one is a lot darker, and a lot more, not grounded, but just kind of focuses on this one man and his little troop of people who are helping him search for his son, and how it affects Daniel's mother, who is not out there searching every single day. Really, really brutal, but affecting, and certainly I was sobbing by the end.
Wow.
It's exceptional. I hope it catches the wave that it deserves to. Marchak is an independent filmmaker, and this is not necessarily, the biggest film he's ever made. But it is, it's a Polish documentary that is being distributed by Braid Made Films, or at least that's the studio, one of the studios that's on it. I hope it gets picked up soon. People need to see it.
Wow. Megan, I'll pose the same questions to you. What is a film, a performance, something that you think could be in the awards conversation in the year to come?
Josephine, obviously, I'm really hoping is in the conversation, especially Mason Reeves' performance. I think she does an impeccable job of giving an authentic childlike reaction to a lot of stuff she witnesses, a lot of the frustrations she feels, and the way that she portrays them. Honestly, there's a courtroom scene, and the way that she displays the character's morality, and a morality that is rarely even seen in, adults, especially some of the adults that are surrounding her in this courtroom scene. And it just left me floored. I mean, it might honestly be one of the best child performances I've seen in a very long time. But other than that, there's also a documentary that I watched called Silenced by Selena Miles. And it's kind of a fallout of the Me Too movement, and how a lot of women's voices are silenced. Their First Amendment right is silenced when talking about their assaults and things that they've gone through in their life. It highlights a few specific cases, like Brittany Higgins, and I'm pretty sure it's New Zealand, and also Amber Heard, her trials both in the UK and the United States, and how a lot of these powerful men use the same type of PR campaigns against their victims, and kind of flips the script on how people view victims, and it shows how much women's rights has kind of regressed throughout time. There's a section in the film, in the documentary, where an older woman is talking about how unfortunately her family has gone through numerous different assaults throughout throughout generations, and how time has kind of regressed. Oh, sorry, one second. But it kind of shows how, we've regressed as a society, where we're blaming victims for kind of what they're going through, instead of, it just shows how, who really is being prosecuted by the public during these situations, from Johnny Depp to Justin Baldoni even recently, how they use the same PR, they use the same lawyers, they et cetera, and it felt very suffocating to watch that movie, not only just because of the name, but because you see yourself, your friends, your family, and what they've gone through, and you think, okay, no wonder they didn't report, no wonder they did this, no wonder they did that, because Silence really does show how sensationalized a lot of this stuff gets, and we kind of lose sight of the main issue at hand, is that women are being abused at really any age. And the unfortunate reality is that even if you haven't gone through something like this, someone has gone through something like this. And that just because people say believe women, it doesn't mean to not believe men. It just means believe women's claims, and also believe men's claims, and find the truth within it all. And unfortunately, I do think it is going to be, some people are not going to watch it because who's in the film, and the way it talks about these trials and all of that. But I really hope that it stays throughout the conversation of the year and it gets picked up, because it's something I feel like a lot of people need to see, because even unbeknownst to people, sometimes they do fall for smear campaigns and they don't even know it. So I think it's incredibly important. But yeah, Silenced was one. And then also there's a film called The Huntress. It's a Mexican director, Susan Andrews Carrera, and it's based on true events of a woman who lives in Mexico, and women, I feel like there's a trend in what I'm talking about, but women are being abused at an alarming rate, and no one takes their claims seriously. Even the police are, seemingly in on it. And women have to protect each other. And a woman decides to take it upon herself to start executing a lot of the people that are causing these crimes to happen to women, and kind of how we view justice. And it's a very compelling stuff. And I was I wasn't expecting it to feel so constricting when you're watching it, because when you're watching it, you're like, okay, what would I do in that situation if my voice has been unheard for years and years and years, and now I have a daughter who is about to enter the public as a growing woman. How do I want to protect her? How do I protect the people around me when you go to the police and nothing happens? And it depicts sexual assault pretty vividly, but it's not using it to make big fanfare. It's used as a point in the story to remind you of why this woman is doing what she's doing. And again, there's like some cool beliefs in gods. Diana the Huntress is a big point in the film. And it gives kind of a different view of how women deal with or become a community of people that are looking out for one another. And I thought it was very beautiful.
That sounds, all of these films sound incredible. I'm like such a dork. I'm like literally writing down all these films to make sure that I see them. But, this is the last year that Sundance was held in Park City, and Sundance has always been a champion of obviously independent filmmaking, independent documentary. Were there any trends you noticed across the films that you watched? I've seen a lot of people say that they feel hopeful about the state of film post Sundance. Like, would you agree? What stood out to you in terms of like, what can this crop of films tell us about the industry?
I mean, I guess I'll say that a majority of the films that I watched were female directed and female written, and there's only a few films from the online section that I watched. Like I watched a smaller amount than Will did. I only watched about 15 or 16 because I was pretty selective like on what I was picking. I didn't want to not necessarily waste my time, but there were certain ones that I really wanted to watch and write about. So I wanted to give myself that time. And yeah, I mean, there's so many films directed by women that this year that I was watching, and it made me feel very hopeful that women's films are being seen by more and more people, and they're telling new and interesting stories that are deeply personal, but also they feel like anyone can kind of connect with them. So that was something that really stood out to me.
What about Free
Yeah,
Will?
I would tend to agree. A lot of female directed standouts, and I would also say that something I've noticed. I was fiddling around with an idea in my head, like obviously Sundance taking place in January and into early February makes a lot of sense because we've always associated it with snow in Utah and with cold. But I also think that it makes sense to have it in late January because a lot of the topics that tend to get broached and the things that capture bigger audiences both on the ground and online are topics that feel front of mind for people at home just in terms of the news. So something like American Doctor, the Israel-Palestine conflict and the genocide in Gaza is something that is front of mind for a lot of people. And so that is a topic that not the filmmakers are obviously not capitalizing on these things, but right now that movie lands and you feel like you're watching it on the news every single day, and then you watch a film about a very specific section of people who are serving the community as best they can. So topics like that. I would also say that climate is a big topic always at this festival. I've seen many documentaries over the years that handle that. One in particular that stood out to me this year is one of the better movies I saw. Is called Time and Water, which is directed by, I believe, Sarah Dosa. Yes, Sarah Dosa, who is the director of Fire of Love, the volcano explorer documentary from a number of years ago. I believe it was 2022 that movie came out. And yeah, 2022. And Time and Water is basically it's an Icelandic writer's look at how his country is changing because of climate change and because of just time. Like the glaciers are melting, his family, his old elders are passing away, and so he's looking at time, obviously, and water, because Iceland is a cold place with glaciers and lots and lots of water across it's the entire landscape. And so he's viewing both as kind of this parallel path. As time goes on, water melts, and what does that leave us with? Really, really stood out to me as one of the better documentaries I saw here. My father is Icelandic, so it was certainly one that I wanted to make sure that I made time for, and I'm thrilled that I did, because when I first saw the description of it, did not know it was Sarah Dosa's film, her documentary, and she really has been somebody who's been in my mind since watching Fire of Love. That was a big triumph that I believe also premiered at Sundance. And then to have this here and available online was wonderful. So yeah, the sections at Sundance always tend to capture diversity and front of mind topics very well. And what I would also say is that is just kind of the state of independent film right now. When you have less resources, in an odd way, you have more opportunity to explore the topics that are more fascinating to you, and to do more with the resources that you do have to capture the proper story that makes the film. So I've never been more hopeful for the state of independent film, even as Sundance does move. I think that its next chapter is only something that should succeed. Again, maybe that's hopeful, or just optimistic with rose-colored glasses on, but I don't know. I'm not stopping going to the movies or watching them anytime soon. And based on what a lot of people I think took away from the crop at this year's Sundance. There are plenty others who are going to stick around too. So yeah, I liked this program. I think it's not the strongest we've seen in recent years, but very strong.
Well, for the rest of our conversation, I'd like for you to just go back and forth and tell me about some of the movies you loved. If you think there are awards prospects, great. I'd obviously like to know about that. But I think it's important to use this space to get the word out about some of these films. So, Megan, I'll start with you. You mentioned that you had, several on your list that you wanted to see, that you got to see. What were some of those films that you got to check off your watch list?
Yeah, there's a lot of young women coming of age movies that I checked out, and that's a genre that I just absolutely love. I love seeing girlhood in different countries, different languages, different cultures, and my favorite out of them all is called Big Girls Don't Cry by Polona Schneidman, and I think it's one of the better films that captures like the Y2K era of girlhood, where you're logging into your online messenger to see who's online, or you're stealing your sister's crop tops, which I know crop tops are a thing now, but when I was a kid, Y2K crop tops were like the only, like, my sister wore them and I just thought it was the epitome of cool. So I really enjoyed that one. And it reminded me of, like I said, like middle school era where I'm sneaking out to my friend's house. We're having, slumber parties. Some of the best sleep I probably ever had was with my friends, staying up all night, and then falling asleep on their basement floor. And it really brought back some great memories, and also how girlhood doesn't last long enough for young women. A lot of the times girls are introduced to adult things like drugs and sex at a very early age, and a lot of those more innocent moments that you have with your friends, not knowing like what certain curse words are, or what some innuendos even mean. But once you kind of learn that, you have an innocence that's kind of gone, and your naivety is kind of gone as well. So it was nice to be brought back to that kind of world for a little bit. Also, there's another coming of age kind of film called Hold On to Me, and I cannot pronounce my Risney, I think is the director's name. I'm not totally sure, but that one was pretty good. It was about a young girl who has to reconnect with her estranged father, who is a pretty big criminal, and she reconnects with him, and I loved how it showed how children will never really understand why like family members kind of just up and leave their lives, and the impact that has on them, and when they're trying to grapple with, well, in this film, for example, it's her father, so she's wondering why her father decided to leave their family and what's wrong with them, and she kind of resents her mother in that way. And it's I thought it was really great there. I do have some issues with it, but and then there's another film called Lady that I watched on Sunday. I watched probably all my favorite films of the festival. So Sunday was remarkable for me. But Lady by Olive Nosu. It's a Nigerian film based in Lagos, and it's about like the only female cab driver in a very patriarchal society, where she's very hardworking and she's trying to get herself out of the situation she's in. And she reconnects with an old friend, and her life kind of changes from there, but for the better. So yeah, those were just a few of the ones from my list. Also, like I mentioned, Huntress was amazing. And also, let's see, one more was, I really enjoyed Union County. And I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it. Union County has Will Poulter and Noah Centino. I think that's how you say it. and they're two brothers who are drug addicts, going through recovery, and I thought it was beautiful knowing someone that deals with addiction and recovery. I thought that it was a very honest portrayal of it. And they do use a lot of non-actors. It reminded me of Winter's Bone, how they used a lot of real world Appalachian people. Union County does the same thing, where it uses a lot of people who are in these recovery classes, who are giving you a real world view of how these interactions with judges go, how they relapse and what happens when they relapse, and all of the complicated emotions and relationships that come with it. So I would say that those were probably some of the best of the ones I saw. There's a few others that I was kind of on, like Z, I was not really a fan of. Rock Springs, I'm a little hit or miss on. There's parts of it that I there's parts of it
For
that I
those
really
of you,
enjoy.
Will's face. I'm gonna get to you, Will. Hang on to that.
I don't want to talk about Rock Springs.
Yeah, and when I was watching it, I was kind of like, where is this even going? Because the first act of the film, I would say the first third of the film is really, really hard to get into. I think that the dialogue was not very good. I think that the pacing was all over the place. But once it hits the second act, it kind of comes together a little bit. And the middle part of that film, I wished the entire film was, exploring that in that time period that it is, because it's kind of like a time travel-y timeline type movie. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing I outwardly disliked, but again, I was pretty selective on what I was watching. So yeah.
Will, anything you'd like to share with the class?
I did not care for Rock. What I will chime in on, just to echo what Meg said, Union County, I thought was pretty successful. I'm not incredibly high on it, but I thought that Will Poulter, who plays the lead, was excellent. His name is Cody in the film, and I thought he was really, really strong. One of his better performances, if not his best. I've been a fan of his for a while. I when he was in that movie We're the Millers, I was a little worried that we were gonna fall into this, like, oh, this kid kind of looks funny, and he is funny, and we make humor out of his awkwardness. He has really matured, obviously, into a very handsome man, but also into somebody who has dramatic chops that I think go beyond what he's been asked to do in movies like Midsommar, where he's kind of the comic relief as a jerk, and in Guardians of the Galaxy, where he plays the golden guy. I couldn't tell you his name if I tried.
Is Adam Warlock?
Sure. Yes. Warlock. Adam Warlock. Yep. I'll forget that the second we stop talking about it. But anyway, he's very good in this, and I really love how they captured the recovery community, specifically in Midland, Ohio. This takes place during the opioid epidemic, if I can say that correctly. But he's exceptional in the movie, and I thought that it was really, really smart by Adam Meeks, the writer director, to bring in people who are really participating in this court mandated drug program, where you have to essentially go in front of a judge on a weekly basis, talk about your progress, take a look at the book of what meetings you've been attending, and then all the other red tape of urine tests and all these different things. But so it's a very holistic view of the recovery community, and also a profound character study with Will Poulter at the center, and Noah Centineo doing something I hadn't seen him do before. He's, people will recognize him as the lacrosse boy from To All the Boys I Loved Before. Obviously, he's tried to branch out a little bit in recent years. He was in Warfare last year, but didn't really get to do much in that film since it was such an ensemble piece. But Poulter is excellent here. So I echo that about Union County. I have a couple more that I would love to shout out.
Please do.
yeah, above most of them is How to Divorce During the War, which is a drama about a couple. The man is a filmmaker and the wife is a executive, a content creation company essentially, and she wants to separate from her husband, who she feels is no longer driven. He hasn't written or directed anything in a long time, or wrote or directed anything in a long time. So she has just lost interest. She doesn't love him anymore. That's why she wants to get divorced or separate at the very least. And one day after breaking this news, they turn on the TV and Russia has invaded Ukraine. And so they basically have to navigate this moment. They live in Lithuania, in the capital of Lithuania, so very close proximity to Russia and Ukraine. And they have to navigate that political unrest and global unrest due to that conflict. And also the fact that they now have essentially decided to get divorced, told their daughter, all these things. It's like, what happens now? That is really what the title itself, How to Divorce During the War. This is not a how-to manual at all, but it's a really, really excellent, smaller drama about love in the time of national unrest. And I really, really responded to it. So highly recommend that. The director is Andrus Blazevicius. Definitely didn't say that right, but I do my best. Yeah, I like that one a lot. Ani Kubijigan is another film I responded to. It's subtitled Ancestor, Great Grandparent, Great Grandchild. It's a documentary by the brothers Adam and Zach Khalil. I'll just read the log line quickly because it's a very experimental, forward-thinking documentary where it explores ancestors who are essentially not the remains, but the memories of family ancestors are trapped in museum archives and need to find their way back home. History, spirituality, and the law collide as tribal repatriation specialists fight to return and rebury indigenous human remains, offering a revealing look at the still pervasive worldviews that justified collecting them in the first place. Very, very strong film. As I was watching it, and this might just apply to me, but the first thing that popped in my head was, this is going to be in the currents section at this year's New York Film Festival. Now, it's not often that Sundance films last that long to make it to New York or even want to get selected to New York. But I mean, last year, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, and plenty of others have made it before that. A Real Pain was one. So I don't know. It could be there. I'm not really trying to think that far ahead, but this documentary is really affecting and looks at the importance, or not the importance, but the heartbreak of, the stolen land that so many live on and the ancestors that lie beneath and how they are brought home where they belong. So I really liked that movie. Night Nurse, totally different plane of existence. The movie Night Nurse, directed by Georgia Bernstein, basically follows a night nurse at a retirement community, who I don't even know how to describe this movie.
I loved this one too.
This is
I'm
great,
so glad
right?
You brought it up. Yeah.
So one of her patients essentially really likes spam calling people and having his nurse pose as a grandchild for an elderly man to wire him lots and lots of money. And it takes a very psychosexual turn almost immediately, and that persists for the remainder of the movie. And I totally dug it. It's really discomforting at first, and then once you recognize that the character, our lead character, the night nurse, is kind of into it and in on it, you ease back a little bit, but you're always sort of on your toes wondering when the other shoe is going to drop. And when it does, things unravel pretty quickly. Really psychosexual, dark, sort of funny, but in a messed up way. I quite liked Night Nurse against my better judgment, I guess. Yeah, works for me. Another one that I've seen a lot of people talking about that I thought was much more of a picturesque success than maybe the film itself, but I still responded to it, is Nuisance Bear, which is a documentary that kind of follows how polar bears are forced to navigate tourists and wildlife officers, and the shared landscape between wildlife and people, specifically Native American people. Very good. That's kind of all you need to know about it in order to fall in love with it. In a way, it's beautiful to look at, and also thoughtful, as I've said about a number of the movies we've talked about today. But this one, I don't know, an A24 logo popped up at the beginning. I don't know if that's an international sales agent. I have no idea, but could be an A24 doc coming later. I really don't know the specifics. Like I said, I haven't talked to anybody there, but and then the last one I'll shout out is a smaller documentary that I don't know how many people actually saw, but I quite liked it. It's called Seized, documentary by Sharon Leese, focusing on a very, very small paper in Marion, Kansas called the Marion County Record, that became kind of a national news story because the police raided its offices, and 2 days later, the founder of the paper, who was 98, just to mention that, but 2 days after they've raided their offices, she died. And so it was kind of like, did the stress cause this death? Why did they raid in the first place? Did they have reason? It's all about the abuse of power in small communities and how journalism can be affected when it is valued in a community. And it's very interesting, as somebody who is both kind of practicing as a freelance journalism in freelance journalism, and also interested in the topic of journalism as a whole, just to watch this paper try to survive in a town of, I don't even know how many people, but not that many. And the cops, who have a lot of sway in the community, come in and say, you are done. And the paper says, no, we are not. It's just really interesting. I liked it quite a bit.
That sounds fast. I mean, all of these sound fascinating. The way that I'm like, oh, this needs to be at the top of my list. Like Meg talking about like a coming of age story for a millennial girl. I'm like, oh, you mean my life story? Yes, I would love to watch. I would love to watch that. What sort of any final thoughts you guys would like to share about your experiences? More films to shout out? Something you'd like to champion? The floor is yours.
Like Will said, Night Nurse is awesome. It was the first one I watched. I reviewed it for Geek Vibes Nation, and I found it very reminiscent. Like, I had just watched a Blowout like a few weeks before this, so a lot of those like mirrored shots and doorway shots and kind of viewing things from an angle where you feel like you shouldn't be watching something, it's all within Night Nurse. And you can feel those influences from a lot of erotic thrillers that are staples in the genre. So I see Night Nurse as being like a cult classic here. Like, whenever it gets picked up and more people can see it. So I want to champion Night Nurse, Josephine, and especially Lady. I think Lady is another one that I feel like you're going to see on the shelves of Criterion someday. Like, it's a feminist classic. In my eyes, it's a total classic film about sisterhood and advocating for each other and overcoming generational trauma from from stuff you've seen your mother, grandmother, or friends go through. So those are big films that I'm walking away with for my first experience at Sundance, and I'm going to push those to a lot of people.
What about you, Will?
The last one that I didn't mention, other than some of the ones we already have, like, If I Go, Will They Miss Me, Closure, American Doctor, Josephine, that group, is Shame and Money, which is one that I caught just before the window closed, directed by Visar Marina. After losing their livelihood in a village, a Kosovar family is forced to move to the capital in pursuit of a place in hyper-capitalistic society. Really good. Really good sort of thriller vibe to it, but only in a sense. It's much more about a family being displaced, and losing familiarity and having to adapt to something that they don't understand. What I think that mainly exemplifies is that there's really a lot of great international cinema at this festival always. But this year, I think I watched more international offerings online than I have in years past. And I'm grateful for that, because I always love to broaden my horizons, as I know we all like to do. And I think Sundance just does a great job of offering that. Documentaries are a specialty. International gems that you might not otherwise get to see are a specialty. And actor-driven dramas like the Josephines of the world, the Carousels of the world, which I actually didn't get a chance to see, but I know has been on a lot of people's minds. That's the new movie starring Jenny Slate and Chris Pine. I didn't get a chance to see it. Those tickets were gone by the time I got to them, but is on a lot of people's lists as a favorite. And so those are the kinds of movies that really end up driving a lot of the conversation at a Sundance. And I think more deserving attention even than those should go to the international community. Really, really strong stuff this year. That
Well said, Will.
I hope stands out as we continue to move further into the year. I hate when a movie premieres at Sundance in January and then you never hear about it again. That's always my least favorite feeling. So I'm hoping that the stuff we've talked about today, and even stuff we didn't get to mention, stays.
Yeah, well, we'll try to keep an eye on these and champion them as they come out. Now, can I ask you both one more question? Because I love talking to really, really smart people with good taste, which is, outside of the films that you saw at Sundance, what are some things that could be movies, TV, books, podcasts, whatever that you guys are engaging with, interested in?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, lately I've made it a point this year to read more books.
Same.
Because last year I kind of got more ramped up into writing, so a lot of my free time is gone to that, but I'm trying to make an effort to read more, and I am finishing Wuthering Heights right now for the first time. And I'm
Why is
enjoying
that? Why is that? Is there something coming related to that novel?
It's funny because I bought this copy like forever ago. Like, it is like a super old like paperback copy I found at the thrift store, and I was like, oh, I need to read this someday. And well, that came this year. So I'm reading that, and other things I'm interested in. Well, I've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals also. So I try to stay busy with watching movies and writing, but sometimes you just have to stop.
I mean, you gotta be well rounded. I will say about Wuthering Heights, I also bought a paperback copy like in high school. Never read it when it was assigned to me, and I'm trying to read it before a certain something comes out. I've fallen asleep 3 times. I will try to push through, but honestly, Megan, I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah, what helped me is I alternate between reading it straight from the book and also an audiobook along with the book, so I'm not just hearing my own voice in my head. And also it was getting me through some of those chapters that a lot of my friends warned me were kind of like hard to get through. So if you're running into that, like, I've never been a big audiobook person. This is the first time I've really used it as like a companion to the book. I would suggest that.
Good advice. What about you, Will? What's got you nerding out recently? Lately?
Look, I in terms of books, because I'm also trying to be better about that this year. I'm currently in the middle of When the Going Was Good, an editor's adventures during the last golden age of magazines by Graydon Carter, who was
I've heard really good things about it. I'm gonna
editor
write that
at places like Time, the New York Observer, Spy Magazine, Vanity Fair, etc. Very, very good memoir about something I just talked about in relation to Seized, which was journalism in the golden age of it. So I definitely recommend that, even though I'm only in the middle. I don't think it's going to take, unlike Emerald Fennell's films, I don't think it's going to take a surprise psychosexual turn in the third act that I'm going to have to watch out for. But you never know. So I've been enjoying that. I'm also enjoying, like many others, The Pit, Industry, and I'm binging NCIS right now for the first time. I never got into that, but I'm in now. And really the only thing I give a crap about anymore is Survivor. So I can't wait for season 50. That comes in under about 22 days, I believe, if anybody's counting. Not me. No, I am. That's what I'm nerding out about lately.
Will has like one of those calendars where every day he like
every day I rip off another day. We're so close.
Well, I got.
What about you, Shadan?
I got to catch up with Cutting Through Rocks, which is one of the Oscar-nominated documentaries. They had a showing at the Fine Arts Museum in Houston, which was really cool. They also had a Frida Kahlo exhibit there, which was also so. I did a lot of museum stuff. And then what have I read recently? I did listen to, speaking of audiobooks, oh my God, Project Hail Mary. The audiobook is phenomenal. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that now that I've read the book. But I will try to push through Wuthering Heights, Megan. And then I will message you and I'll be like, we need to discuss. All right, guys, to close out this episode of Chasing the Gold, tell the people where they can find your fabulous, fabulous writing. I've been lucky enough to work with both of you, and two of the best that we have at In Session Film, and two of the best film critics we just have in the world at large. So where can people read and engage with your work? Will
Megan, that was I am totally that is probably the nicest compliment I've ever gotten, so thank you so much. I'm gonna make sure to record this part when it comes out and send it to my dad to be like, hey man, I'm making a difference.
Yes, you are. You definitely have a fan out there. Lots of fans, but especially me.
Thank you. Well, you can find me basically anywhere online as WonderMeg with an underscore at the end. You can find my writing at In Session Film, Geek Vibes Nation, and I also have my own website, wonderwatches.com, that I try to update as much as I can with what I'm watching, stuff I recommend, interviews, etc. So, but yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. This was so much fun.
Will, spread the word.
Thank you also for having me on, and for the kind words. You can find me on Twitter at @ByWillBjarnar, and you can find my writing at places like In Session, Geek Vibes Nation, Next Best Picture, and also you can find less words but still just profound wisdom at Will Bjarnar on Letterboxd, where I certainly am just clamoring for a Pulitzer.
Well, both of you, please come back. I loved having you, and now I have a bunch of films that I can't wait to watch. I will list them all below in the description so people will also be made aware. And like I said, as they come out, we will champion them, push out those reviews again so that they remain top of mind. I am at Shadan Larkey everywhere. Please follow me. Please follow In Session Film. We're a website that is made of love and any and all support. Likes, follows, shares, rate and review the pod. Leave comments. Let us know which ones of these films you guys are most excited about. And thank you guys both. And thank you everybody for listening and watching. And Megan, hopefully next time we get to see your face.
Yes, you will.
Okay. That's a wrap from us. Bye, everybody.